do 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 Hello, hello. Welcome back to class, to the Fun Bunker Film School. Today we've got a good episode for you. We've got David and
Hello.
Kolb,
Hey.
and we are going to be talking about Michael Clayton, the movie and the man. Michael Clayton, a movie directed by Tony Gilroy, maybe most notable these days for his work in TV with the Andor Star Wars television series. But back in 2007, he had been writing a number of movies, such as like the Bourne Identity and other kind of thrillers of that ilk. And his foray into directing came with Michael Clayton, a legal thriller starring George Clooney and Tilda Swinton, Tom Wilkinson, Sidney Pollack, amongst others. So we can just kind of get started. David, how did you feel about Michael Clayton?
Yeah, so for me, I think this is like the exact thing that I wanted to get out of this podcast, outside of fame and money, obviously, but because it's a movie that I ended up thoroughly enjoying, but it's also one that was like never on my radar. So like I knew of Heat and Walk Hard, the other episodes that I've done. But like I had never even like really heard of Michael Clayton. Chris was just like, "Hey, do you want to be on this episode?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it a go." And so I went in completely blind and just ended up like absolutely loving it, and then also learning a lot in that Tony Gilroy is apparently like one of my favorite writers, because it's just like you go through his credits and it's like, I like that, ooh, I really like that, and then he comes in and he does the help with Rogue One, and then does Andor, and I think that's like some of the best Star Wars stuff that we've seen in a really long time. So thoroughly enjoyed it.
Sure. Kolb, same question. Did you enjoy Michael Clayton? Did you not enjoy Michael Clayton?
Sure. But before we start, I got to say this. For those of you, if this is your first episode, I'm not talking to the same guy. These guys sound the exact same. I've never met David, so this is my first time meeting him. And you guys are like, if I was closing my eyes, I wouldn't know who I'm talking to.
It's bad. Like I might have to like pan our voices like hard left, hard right. So, distinction.
Yeah, I thought, Chris, you were talking into a mirror when I heard the opening episode. I'm like, there's no way they're the same. But no, it's truly two different guys talking to me. Okay.
Almost like brothers.
Almost. I don't sound anything like my brothers, but whatever. Anyway, Michael Clayton. I've never heard of this movie either. And honestly, as I was watching it, I did enjoy it. It paced well, and I was involved or invested the whole time. But by the end of it, I was like, I wonder why this movie was picked for this podcast. Because I looking at your list of all the movies you had planned, I'm like, I can see why these are this one, and this one was just a complete mystery to me. So now that I know a little bit about who directed it, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I didn't look up his whole repertoire, but yeah. So I did enjoy it. I didn't understand why he picked it, though.
You still am like, why was this one chosen?
I would love to hear that answer as we go along.
Yeah, I think when I'm thinking about, when I was coming up with a list of films, initially, it came out of this like joking like syllabus that like Zach had asked for, and I was just going down the list of like different genres. And there are so many good thrillers. Like I could have picked a million good legal thrillers, like going all the way back to like I almost said One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I'm thinking of another old book that was adapted with Gregory Peck, To Kill a Mockingbird. You can look at like To Kill a Mockingbird. You could go to all of the John Grisham movies that were in the 90s, like The Firm or The Pelican Brief. Like there's, a million good thrillers out there. My favorite director is David Fincher. He's done a number of them. Um, what I think I like about Michael Clayton is some of like uh, minutia or the meta narrative of who Tony Gilroy was at the time and where he was coming from. I also think that it's just it's so enjoyable from front to back and was kind of unexpected. And it's kind of like David said, like it's like I think when you're starting to get more into film, one of the things you can do is to take a movie that you already really like and start digging into the people who made it that aren't on the screen. And even outside of the director, figure out like, who wrote it and what other stuff did they write. Even looking at like the producers, you look at, Kathleen Kennedy, the producer or the creative, mind behind Star Wars, who just retired, her whole Disney run, which was like celebrated and panned, like at the same time, like, and people, might be like, why was she even picked to run Star Wars? Well, she was the producer behind E.T., which was like the highest grossing movie of all time when it came out. Like she and like worked on like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like there's like she has this history, but producers are so much less forward facing than even directors and sometimes some of the splashier writers. Um, so part of it is that meta narrative of like, kind of Tony Gilroy and just that, that his writing background. I love the Bourne franchise. I'm pretty sure, I need to look it up, but did Tony Gilroy direct the Bourne Legacy as well? Like I think he wrote the Bourne Identity, and I might have written Supremacy and Ultimatum as well, but I think he did the one with Jeremy Renner. But anyways, I think it's just really, it's so well written and directed. Like, he's coming from this writing background, and the way that it's directed is very clear that it's coming from like the same mind, and like everything is so well woven or well weaved. Well, I don't know if that's actually a word.
It
It was
is.
well weaved.
It's got to be.
Yeah. Everything is so tightly wound, and everything feeds into something and loops back. It's a good movie to go back and rewatch, like once you kind of have a grasp on kind of what's going on. Like it can be a little bit disorienting the first time you watch, and then the second time you watch, once you have a better grasp on like what's going on and how you start kind of in the middle of the story, and the thing, like who causes the explosion in the car, or why he's getting out of the car to look at the horses, like all of that kind of stuff. It's really, it's very, very rewarding. I think George Clooney is really good in it, as are the other actors like Tilda Swinton. Like she's just so like cold and calculating in her performance. It's good. Yeah. So does that it kind of help it maybe explain like why I picked this one, even though it might not be like it's not like in the Criterion collection or anything?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, all that behind the scenes stuff, I enjoy learning about it, but I never research it. So
Yeah, for sure.
I was looking at it more story wise why you picked it. But
Yeah.
oh, yeah, Walk Hard. That is a movie that I understand at face value, and this one I didn't quite understand why it was picked, but that's fine. Now I understand, and I thank you for your explanation.
Oh, sure.
Walk Hard's a deeper movie than you realize. So.
Yeah, it does.
I'm
It's
sure
got
it
a
is.
lot of themes going on. Yeah, I think so. Maybe just to talk a little bit about Michael Clayton. Maybe you can go back a little bit further. I think we should also celebrate. This is the first episode post release of the podcast that we're recording. The podcast is actually out, and we're recording new episodes since then. One of the questions
Yeah.
I've gotten a couple times since people have been listening is like, should I, watch the movie or listen to the podcast first? And so I'd like to say, definitely watch the movies first. And
Yes.
then come listen to the podcast because we are spoiler heavy. But a little recap, or maybe if you are listening to this before or you're trying to think about watching the movie, to give a high level idea of what Michael Clayton is It is a legal thriller. Michael Clayton, the character played by George Clooney, is a fixer for this New York law firm. Um, and so his kind of job is to clean up all of the messes that are left behind by all of the firm's wealthy clients that have the lawyers on retainer. Um, this has left him very cynical and jaded. We learned through the movie that he once was like a more typical like prosecuting lawyer, but he's kind of been like shelved to this like janitor role because he's also good at that. Um, so um, one of the head lawyers at the law firm um, discovers some very damning evidence against this agrochemical company that they are supposed to be representing. And the firm is like attempting to kind of keep some of this quiet, but Clayton is drawn into this game of intrigue, this corporate intrigue and deception. He's trying to protect himself and the firm from the consequences of like this lawyer that's this like head lawyer that's going rogue. You know, he's also got some mental stability issues. And it's the whole film is like exploring corporate greed, environmental damage, kind of the compromises, the moral compromises that people will make trying to pursue success. So it's very fun. Like I keep saying, it's a very tight script, but yeah. Um, David, you had said you had watched it a couple times. Was there anything that you kind of picked up on a second watch? That you, or what did you think about your second watch that you maybe didn't find in the first?
Yeah, so I think just knowing from the get-go that it starts kind of not even the middle, like it kind of starts like pretty close to the end. You realize like and being able to kind of get some of the context throughout it, because like when you watch it that first time and you see him at the poker table, it kind of just comes across as like, oh, he's just somebody that's addicted to gambling. And then you realize later on, like that's actually, you know, possibly like a relapse for him after everything that he's gone through. And so it's actually even more of a sad moment than you kind of initially realize. So I thought that was like really interesting just to kind of get that context for it. Um, and then as far as like other things that I didn't like pick up on the first time, I never catch things like the camera tricks or like directing styles on my first viewing. It's just not something that my brain does. But I realized on second viewing that assassination scene is a one take, and it is a
Oh yeah.
really really good one take. Like one of the better ones that I can think of, and the fact that that's done as a one take so professionally, while these assassins are doing what they do very professionally, it just kind of adds to it. So those were kind of the two big takeaways I had from a second viewing.
Yeah, for sure. Kolb, was there any particular scene that like at some point in the movie made you feel like the movie like leveled up in some sort of way, or like you were like, whoa, like this is where this is going?
uh, where my interest really started to peak was when the crazy lawyer actually called Michael Clayton's son, or he called Michael Clayton, and his son was talking to him, and the kid's explaining this book or whatever the story was to him, and he's so invested in what he's saying about the delusion and if it's reality and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I think they're showing us something uh, a little more thought provoking than just some random thriller.
Yeah.
So that was a good starting point for me, um, because I'll say I don't necessarily like the structure of a movie when it shows 15 minutes of the end of the movie and then they go back. But
Mm-hmm.
then I thought about it. That was kind of the big fad in the early 2000s. Like they did that a lot. So maybe
Yeah.
it's just a casualty of the time period of movie making at that in those years. But um, I don't know. Do you guys like that kind of storytelling where they flash back after a good
If
chunk of the
it's
movie?
done well, I really enjoy it. I actually think like the biggest example of that thing for me is Uncharted 2, the video game where like it starts with like him doing the train climb or whatever, and you realize that that's like halfway through the game, and so it kind of gives you like something to look forward to, but you don't realize that that's what's happening. So that's what I liked about this one is you don't even really realize that it's like the flashback right away. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny that you bring that up because as we're recording this episode won't release for like months, but Mickey 17 just came out, and David and I actually went and saw it in the theater, and it does a similar thing where it starts in the kind of the middle of the story. And you're right, like, you know, like when you said like it's kind of this time, like I think about like the pilot of Lost that starts, you know, in chaos, you know, that in media res where it's like everything's blowing up and people are screaming, and then it goes back and you find out why. Um, and I think that like I actually really enjoyed Mickey 17, but that's an aspect of the film that I think I don't know why it needed to start in the middle. That you didn't really learn any information that I think would have been super relevant in the stuff that they then flash back to. So yeah, I do think it's a fad. It's a screenwriter trick that doesn't always work, but in something like this where you then get all of the information that feeds into what you're seeing, it makes the moment where you know you finally catch up to like the um, you know why he's looking at the horses, you know why the car blows up. um,
Yes, and but yeah, you get that information, you know why, but that also took away a lot of tension for the
oh
bomb that
sure.
was being placed. Like, I know it's not going to kill him because we see the car blow up at the beginning of the
Yeah,
movie. So that's kind of where I disliked it. Was
yeah, for
I
sure.
wanted to feel that tension of like, oh no, is he going to die too because he knows too much and he's kind of pushing back a little. But
Yeah,
I knew he wasn't going to die. So
right. You know he's not going to die. I do think there's a little bit of tension in that. Then after that, you're like, well, now what? Like, what does he do?
that's true. That's true.
You know, and he is. What does he like? Runs through the woods and then calls his estranged druggy brother. um, yeah, and I do like the ending of this film a lot. I think the ending is super satisfying. The whole final confrontation between Michael and what's her character's name, Karen, the legal counsel for U North, and um, the kind of bait and switch he does with her with like the wire, and like you don't know his intentions, where he is like making it seem like he really just does care about, you know, like getting the money and getting one up on her, um, only for it to be that it's actually for justice. Like he's, you know, like he's still just doing his job. um, yeah.
so do you think if they hadn't done the assassination attempt, he still would have done that? Or is that the moment when he decides to flip?
I think it's when he flips, because at that point in the film he's also um, received like the buyout offer from Sidney Pollock's character, the other head of the firm. um,
Marty.
yeah, Marty. Yeah, he's received that buyout offer. Like he really seems like he just wants to he kind of seems done. Like he's always tired. um, he like wants what's best for his son, and he also sees like all of these different. I think there's a thing that's going on in the film where like these characters, like Michael sees like different parts of himself. um like he sees all of the other, he sees like you know, his son is like what he used to be, or like what, you know, he wanted to be, um or his past, you know, it's like innocent. And then there's the guys like Karen and Tim, like those are his present. It's like all corporate tension, it's all, everything's dialed up. um and then like Marty and Arthur, the older heads of the firm, are like his future, and he's like he's gonna go crazy or he's gonna like sell himself out. um and so like as much as this movie is about like corporate law and espionage and all those great thriller elements, like he's also wrestling with himself. And I think there's that very telling scene after the kid's birthday party where he goes on like kind of like a what I describe as a swear word filled like protective rant to his son about how he's like, you don't, you can't let yourself get to that point. It's, you can't let life get you down like that. It's, he's kind of more talking to himself than he is his son. And so like, I think by that point at the end of the movie, he's like, I just want to settle the debts with the bar that didn't pan out, and I just want to be done with this. But then when the bomb goes off and his car explodes, and he makes the decision to like throw his valuables into the car and kind of help make it I don't know, is that like a faking his death, or just like a, so that if the assassins come by they see that there's valuable stuff.
There's a little bit of that, and faking his death as well to kind of get
Yeah,
you north off of his trail. So
yeah,
that final scene can like really be a surprise, because I think he kind of knows that Karen is responsible for calling that hit, which the scene where the like
yes.
assassin like makes her say it is really good too. But
And she
yeah, I
won't
love
like
that
actually
scene
say it.
where
Yeah.
uh she comes out and they start talking, and she's like acting all surprised, and then Michael Clayton's like, Arthur's around here too.
Yeah.
It's like, are you seeing ghosts? Like, maybe you're going crazy.
Yes. Um, Man, I do like a lot of this stuff in this film. What do you guys think about George Clooney and Tilda Swinton? I find it harder to talk about acting because I'm not um, as cued into like what makes a good acting performance, other than like the stuff where it's just believable what they do. You kind of know bad acting when you see it. But what did you guys think about like the George Clooney's performance, and any of the other actors that might have stood out to you?
Well, with those two as an examples, I think they're perfect examples of opposite spectrums where Tilda Swinton can play characters, many different characters. And George Clooney, he's a movie star, but his range is a lot smaller. So people know his name and they're like, "Ooh, I'll go see the George Clooney movie," but he's not going to be in some weird character, like something that's believable if he's crazy or if he, eccentric or whatever. I haven't seen a lot of movies that where he hasn't been just, "Oh, that's George Clooney."
Sure.
Maybe I haven't seen the right movies. I don't know, but Tilda Swinton, I feel like her range of characters is so, it could be anything. Like she can be
Yeah.
a cold attorney person. She can be a man. She can be the White Queen. She can be a bald sorcerer. Like there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of things that she can be. So I feel like they both did great in this movie, but I think they're examples of two different types of actors. You got the actual
Yeah.
character actor, and then you got the movie star.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. I think, at least out of the George Clooney movies that I've seen, like I haven't seen all of his work, but I think it's the most nuanced of the ones that I have watched. Just in the scene with his kid that we talked about already, and then like all of the stuff, the confrontations that he has with Arthur when he's holding his bag of 12 baguettes. So
Yeah.
it's he shows off a little bit more range than maybe he does in, say, the Ocean movies, or Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
That's fun. Those are
Yeah.
the only two movies I could think
Yeah,
of his right now.
Yeah, he's good when he can play goofy too. Like I think of like Oh Brother Where Art Thou, he's a little goofier. Or I'm trying to remember the other Coen brothers, like Burn After Reading. Like he's so kind of like manic in that and weird. But yeah, he usually does play a more suave, charming, charismatic, like almost a, not quite like an American James Bond type, but he kind of has had that reputation amongst his characters. Like even Michael Clayton, and it's around the same time you mentioned the Ocean's movies. Like it's a little bit Danny Ocean, but just like if Danny Ocean was so like beat down and tired all the time. Yeah, he does come off very just like cool in this movie though, and like even if he doesn't have the range to play as many different types of characters, I feel like this is like one of the best examples of like what he can do really well.
Oh, for sure.
Um, yeah, it. So yeah, I like the way
The
you framed that.
performance that I think I was caught off guard would be the right way to put it, but the guy who plays Arthur, drawing a blank on his name, but
Tom Wilkinson.
yeah. So the only other thing I know him as is Carmine Falcone from like a little bit in the Nolan Batman movies. So to like see him, show up and uh, be able to like give that performance that had a lot of different ranges for him. Where he plays him going crazy at the deposition, to the baguette scene, where he turns it on and like he starts firing back at Michael Clayton, and like all of the different statues for actually having somebody sent in and everything like that. It's like, oh, this is why he got the job for the U North role. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He and what it's yeah, at that point in the film, a lot of what you've seen from him is just like manic episodes or like the phone call at the beginning that you hear while like you're just slowly kind of like creeping through like a dead New York night, and he's like going on about this insane philosophical stuff. And but then yeah, you get that little glimpse of clarity, and he kind of like in some ways puts Michael Clayton in his place and is like, this is the reason you're not still a practicing like prosecuting lawyer. Is so good. Yeah, he's really good. I really like Sidney Pollack as well. He's really he's like bringing something to as Marty. I also liked the guys that play the assassins, and just kind of the way that it's just like the way they're able to just drop everything. They were gonna go play golf, and then they're like, oh no, work's come up, and everything they do is so nonchalant. Even the way they talk about that scene where she's kind of asking them to go put out the hit on Arthur. They're just kind of like, well, you actually want us to, like they're kind of like
Yeah.
dancing around the issue so like casually, and
Are
then
you
yeah, the
saying
way
okay because you understand, or because you want us to do this?
yes, I love that. Not for Arthur. I don't love it for Arthur. That
Right.
scene is
Yeah.
that scene is wild too. Like,
R.I.P.
yeah, the way they drag him through and then like shoot the needle between his toes or whatever. It was just like, oh, it's just so crazy. Because the rest of the movie, no, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say the rest of the movie is pretty grounded, but I forgot about the horses and the explosion. um, which are grounded elements, but not what you think of when you think of a legal thriller. So yeah, um,
Going back to Tom Wilkinson
yeah,
there, I love that they used his voiceover like really well. It was almost like there are
mm,
three different montages, not with music, but with him doing like a monologue at the beginning of the movie, and there's another one later, and then his phone call to nobody, like basically threatening the chemical company. I was like,
yeah,
this is really good storytelling, and I'm guessing that's direction or the editor. I don't know who did it. But he did great with that, and that also sucked me into the movie. So I'm guessing, yeah, his character is my favorite character because
oh
he's the
yeah,
one who made me start liking the movie, and he's got the most memorable parts, in my point.
yeah. I would agree. Like it's so well written because you are like he's crazy. He's having these like mental breakdowns and manic episodes, but like also what he's talking about, you're like hanging on to what he's saying, and you're kind of like tracking like the things he's talking about are so relevant to what's going on in the film. It's super super well done. Um yeah. Oh, is there anything else that you guys that stood out to you on the watch that you want to talk about? Otherwise, I kind of wanted to just talk about the year 2007 and the year this movie came out, and another reason why maybe I was attracted to this movie and putting it on the list.
I think for the only other thing that I wanted to bring up was the kid is great in just that, like,
I was
it
worried.
doesn't matter who a child is talking to. If they get somebody that will listen to them ramble about whatever it is that they are fixating on, they will do that. Like, my son will talk your ear off about Lightyear even if you don't know him. So yeah, I thought that was great. And then just it's rare to get a kid actor where, like, it's not like it takes you out of the movie. And I think he does a good job with the Uncle Tommy scene, and wanting to, like, go talk to him, and then his dad tells him get in the car, and uh he has a little bit of awareness of what's going on. He's like, is he crying because of the drugs? And so he's
Mm.
already seen a lot in his life, or at least been, like, kind of exposed to it third hand. So I think that was a really well written character that really grounds Michael and kind of gives him a lot of the motivation for having that flip at the end. There's like a scene where Michael goes to Marty Bach, and he gets the check, and he also has the book that has, like, the all the stuff from Arthur about taking it down. And you see him, like, looking at the check and then at the book, and kind of like trying to think and decide, like, is it worth it to take the money, or do I need to be listening to the advice that I just gave my son, and not let this type of stuff surprise me and fall down around me.
Yes. I was trying to find what's the name of the book.
Realm and Conquest.
Realm and Conquest. Yes.
When I was, like, looking through the notes that I took, I just take, like, really random notes when I watch movies for the podcast. But, like, the note that I took when he is explaining Realm and Conquest at the start of the movie is like, I'm sure this is how it sounds to my wife when I'm trying to explain the Stormlight Archives to her.
Yes. Well, even like the when he goes to like it's like a Kinko's or like a Copyworks or whatever to find all of those like boxes of like documents that Arthur had ordered. Like it says summons to conquest like on the cover. Yeah. Uh I do want
So
to talk about 2007. Oh, you
okay,
just
well, sure, that's okay. You can keep going. You opened it up to
um
both of us, and then you only took your
I
brothers.
did.
That's cool.
I okay. No, I know. No. No, what were you gonna say? For real.
So I got two things. One is I can't watch a movie that has Ed Truck in it and not think about The Office. Uh, I was like, this character's dying, and I hope it's by decapitation because that would be ironically hilarious. Um, but anyway, that was the first thing. Second thing is, I guess it's an opinion question for both of you guys. When you watch a movie that has old technology in it, does that make the movie feel dated? Or is it more of like, this is a nice little time capsule of what life used to be like? Because I used to be, this is a dated thing. Like, oh, you're talking about MySpace? Whoa, seriously. Or a flip phone, which there are plenty of flip phones in this movie.
Yeah.
Does that make it feel dated? Or are you happy that it's like that, as in, this is what life used to be like in 2007? Maybe you'll get into that later, Chris, but I want to hear
Yeah,
you. I want to hear your opinion.
I think as long as it's not something where it's like they bring attention to the technology, usually, like, I'm able to kind of separate it and know, like, oh yeah, they just didn't have iPhones back then, or whatever. I did think it was kind of funny in the opening scene. He says, I've got the inappropriate word from the New York Times on my cell phone, instead of
Yes,
just calling it his phone. They, like, specifically call it his cell phone, and that's, like, just not the verbiage that we use for that anymore.
that's
Yeah,
the
right.
exact point I'm talking about. He said, on my cell phone. I'm like, that is so old.
Yeah. Even like 2007, like there were iPhones then, but like they were not like the standard. I would say I view it as like a time capsule kind of thing, and like an
Okay.
like this makes the movie I guess depending on how reliant it is on things in the present, can lead the movie to feeling like this could only, is it a more timeless movie or not?
Yeah.
Because sometimes there can be like period piece movies where like they maybe lean into some of the stuff a little bit too hard. I watched a really bad movie with Jordan that was I don't even remember the name, but it was a rom com with Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon from like last year or 2 years ago or something like that. And there's a scene at the beginning where they're hooking up, and like there's things that, and it's set in the past, like it's set in the 2000s, and there's actually like things on the screen, like text that's like pointing to very 2000s stuff, like like multiple layered shirts and like wide belts and like just like uh and I was like, this feels stupid, like it's like they're trying to make it too obvious that it's like pointing back to another era, or something like this with the old tech. Like it kind of it does make you think about like a simpler time, uh and like you kind of hear I've heard interviews with some directors and writers how certain guys prefer, or women prefer, to write and direct films that are set in older decades or eras, because cell phones solve so many problems that like a different movie would, like if you could just call the
Yeah.
police
Why
in
don't you just call
Halloween,
somebody?
or if you were able to just share, track with GPS data, or communicate more freely. Like cell phones introduce a lot of screenwriting problems that like some writers try and get out of by writing things in a pre-cell phone era. Um,
It's
so
either that
yeah,
or they're, somewhere where the phones never work, like underground.
yes, right. They have to write around it. Like, yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. So yeah, 2007. What a time. uh, I was just looking at, I was looking at a few different things about 2007. So 2007, I feel like, is a movie year. It has two really heavy juggernauts at the top. There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men kind of dominated the Oscars race that year. And it kind of like, when I'm thinking about that year, I'm thinking about those two because they are such like totemic films, and like kind of like best of the decade kind of stuff. And it's crazy. They were filmed near each other. They came out at around the same time, like I think within a couple weeks of each other. And then there was this race of, which one's going to take best picture. Um, but the rest of 2007 is kind of insane. Like, so there's this movie. You also have Zodiac, which some people consider to be like David Fincher's best film. Um, you also have like the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, if you're talking about more um, kind of high-minded artsy films. Like just a beautiful looking film. And then there's a lot of like great just genre stuff too. You've got like Ratatouille, Superbad, Juno, Hot Fuzz, Hot Rod, uh, I Am Legend, Transformers, Grindhouse, which was, if you don't know what Grindhouse was, that was Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez wanted to make a movie that was a double feature, but that you'd go watch in a theater, like both of them back to back, as if it was you were watching a movie in an old 70s like exploitation horror film from the 70s. So they both made separate like 90-minute movies. They put fake trailers directed by like Edgar Wright and Eli Roth in between. Um, it's a lot of fun. Grindhouse is one where like I remember I was, and this is maybe part of why I keep alluding to this. I was like 16 when this was all like going on, 16, 17. And I remember when Grindhouse came out, I was a big Robert Rodriguez fan, and I liked Quentin Tarantino, and like all my friends liked him. And so like we went to like the midnight screening of Grindhouse, and like we just all had a blast because it was so much fun with an audience. But um Yeah, so you got all these. I mean, I have a huge list here. Like Walk Hard, we've already talked about Walk Hard on this podcast. The Darjeeling Limited, like there's a Wes Anderson film in here. Yeah, Gone Baby Gone. That's a Ben Affleck directed one. There's a Bourne Ultimatum. There's a Bourne movie in here. And so I think it's just one of those kind of funny things where, like, we're just coming off of another like Oscar season, 2024's Oscar season, where like some people call it a down movie year. Some people just say it's not as stacked or whatever. But it's kind of interesting to then look at some of these years where sometimes things just line up and there's like a ton of stuff like in this one year. Like 1999 is another one that's always talked about. Um, uh, there's a few in like the 1974 or 77. Like, um, so yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it just is crazy to me that all of these movies came out in the same time, and like some of those movies would just win the best picture. They would sweep the Oscars if they'd been released in a different year.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is pretty nuts, actually.
Yeah. What else do I got on this list? Like REC. Did you guys ever see REC? Which is this one was remade into a movie called Quarantine in the US, but it's like a found footage zombie film that takes place in an apartment complex.
I want to say that that's one of the many movies that you maybe showed to me without mom and dad knowing that you were showing it to me down in the basement late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I,
remember that movie, and I remember watching the remake and not enjoying it as much. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's not as good.
the
That's
list
when
of
I
movies
made
there
people at
from
Emmaus watch.
the list of movies there from 2007, it's that's really crazy to like go through that. Just, and obviously I was like a little bit younger than you were at that time, so like I wasn't going to the theater for a lot of those, but there are movies that still, with like my age group of people going through high school and then even in college, where like those are movies that we talk about as being like huge movies from our childhood, like Super Bad and Juno, and like those are movies that you like kind of really associate with our age group, I think. So it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy that those all
Ratatouille,
came out so close to each other.
I Am Legend, Transformers. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of really good stuff in there. It's like, and I think that's the part of it too, is like there's the high end, like these are crazy, like, great American novel kind of films, like There Will Be Blood, No Country for Old Men, Zodiac. And then there's like, dude, Ratatouille is so good. And like I Am Legend is so cool and fun. Like, Transformers, like everybody, like I feel like if you were, of a good age, like around the time Transformers came out, like that movie was just so much fun to
Oh man,
watch.
yeah.
Like,
I was 13. That was He made that for me.
yeah,
Giant
right.
robots and really like, dumb, like crude humor thrown in there, and yeah.
Lens flares, yeah, great.
Oh yeah, so good, so much fun. Yeah, so we can kind of start to wrap things up here. We can talk about my kind of up next queue for the algorithm. If you were to watch this on a streaming service, I would say any of those movies from 2007. Just like go to Letterbox, go to Google, and just look up movies from 2007 and find something. You'll probably like hit something good. I mentioned some of those John Grisham movies of the 90s, like The Firm with Tom Cruise is one that is a good one to start off with. What else did I mention? To Kill a Mockingbird. Like you can go find some really fun legal thrillers for sure. Stuff that is kind of around that time, or if you're talking about like corporate espionage or just like kind of corporate dramas, there's Margin Call was from 2011, but it was a movie about the 2008 financial crisis. It was directed by J.C. Shandor, who's gone on to do some good stuff. The Big Short is a 2015 kind of comedic drama, also about the 2008 financial crisis, that is very entertaining and kind of frames a boring subject in a fun and digestible way, to where you get invested because of the way the film explains some of the maybe more complex things that were going around on that time. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a smaller list. I couldn't, come up with like a million things in there. I mean, I could list off a bunch of other thrillers, but not as many that like are, don't have some sort of like violent tint to them. Like Zodiac is a very good thriller from, is also from this year. But it also has like maybe the most like harrowing and horrific like scene of somebody getting stabbed I've ever seen in a movie. So it feels like a weird recommendation next to it, other than the fact that they're just really well done movies.
So not to like throw you on the spot, but one of the things that I kind of noted was I really like the way that Tony Gilroy writes monologues. Like I think when
Oh
I
yeah.
think of Tony Gilroy, I think of the monologues. So like the opening from this movie, as well as the monologue from Andor. Yeah, the you're both nodding your head. I think you know which one.
Have you? Are you an
The
Andor guy? Have you seen Andor, Kolb? You're not as big a Star Wars guy.
I'm not that big
Yeah.
into Star Wars. The newest stuff I've seen are the new movies, and that's it. So
I would
nothing in the
actually.
shows.
I mean, if we're going off of like suggestions, like I think if you liked Michael Clayton, you would like Andor because it's very much a spy thriller. Like there's not
Okay,
a lot of the Star Wars stuff to it. Like you don't need to know like a lot about like the Force or Jedi's and stuff like that, and you don't even really need to know the characters a whole lot from Rogue One. Like you're able to kind of just jump in and enjoy it.
sure. I know a lot about
Yeah.
Star
But
Wars.
yeah,
I just don't watch a lot of the new
yeah,
stuff. But I've heard that Andor is the best of the shows.
I would recommend it as well. It's like the most. Yeah, it's like one of those weird ways to frame it. It is like Star Wars for adults, but not because there's like a bunch of like blood or sex or swearing or something like that. It's just like well written, and has complex themes, but it's just all executed so well. And it's also the first season, and the second season hasn't come out by the time when we're recording this. But the first season like kind of has like little 3 episode arcs that it's kind of broken up into, and so it's also like a very like fun, like kind of digestible. It almost feels like they made like movies that are just like back to back, but they're still serialized. It's still a television show. But
but
yeah,
yeah.
if
So
you are out on
with
a lot of the Star Wars, like because it's like, kind of schlocky, like it doesn't feel as schlocky.
Okay.
yeah, but so what I was getting at there with the monologues and everything is, can you think of any other writers, like specifically, or like movies that have a similar writing style, or like another writer that you think writes scripts kind of similarly, where they're like really tight? Because that's I also really like that about this movie. It is a jam-packed 2-hour movie. It keeps it moving.
Yes. And why can't I think of? Sorry, I'm blanking on his name. I'm gonna look up the writer of A Few Good Men. I can't remember his name. He's probably one of the more notable. Aaron Sorkin. Um, Aaron Sorkin is a writer. He's probably one of the more well-known guys who has just written movies. Um, he does write really, really good dialogue, and like he can kind of like write himself into a corner sometimes. I feel like he's kind of like I think he can kind of sniff his own farts a little bit, but he was the writer on like The West Wing, A Few Good Men. Um, he wrote my favorite movie, The Social Network. He's very, very good at, if you want like a monologue, like you might not get as better in a movie as like A Few Good Men, or as quotable as stuff in The Social Network. So I would look at him. I would even just look at other stuff Tony Gilroy has done. The Bourne movies are an example. He wrote, is it Duplicity or Multiplicity? It's the Duplicity, the one
Oh,
with my
not
um,
not Felicity.
not Felicity,
Oh, okay.
not Multiplicity, which is a weird like Michael Keaton one. It's another. I think it's the one he directed after this with Julia Roberts and Clive Owen. Yeah. Um,
I did also
so
notice
that's
he
good.
was given a writing credit on Armageddon.
Yes, yeah. So I'm looking at like what he was wrote like the Cutting Edge, which was like a sports like rom com. Um, you had like the Devil's Advocate, which is an insane movie. I don't think I've ever actually seen that one, but um, it's like Keanu Reeves is a lawyer, and Al Pacino plays like the devil, and he's like having to defend the devil. Uh, um, I know I've seen like Proof of Life. That's like is that the Russell Crowe? Yep, Russell Crowe. And then he wrote on The Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum. And Ultimatum came out the same year that Michael Clayton did, um, which is kind of crazy. Another crazy one is that the guy who shot Michael Clayton, I don't think I have his name off the top here. He's also the cinematographer for There Will Be Blood. Like, so he also like,
It's a good
uh,
year for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, it was just a really good year. Let's see here. Oh, he's a producer on Nightcrawler. Now I'm just looking at it as like IMDb, but um, yeah. Oh, and he did direct the Bourne Legacy, which is one I want to rewatch sometime. I saw it in theaters and remember kind of thinking like it's not as good as the Bourne Identity or the Bourne Supremacy, but it's also like so ingrained into that some of that spy stuff that I think he's so interested in that I kind of want to revisit it sometime. Yeah. Okay. I think that about covers it, unless there was anything you guys wanted to talk about, or any other questions that you may have had.
No questions. I was glad with the restraint in the movie, how it didn't just turn into a Bourne movie at the
Yeah,
end, where he just pulls out a gun and starts
yeah. It's like all of a
defending himself.
sudden he is American James Bond or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
American James Bond lawyer.
yeah. The climax of the movie, it's not the car bombing. It's him talking to a lady with a wire, and that's it.
Hmm.
And so I was happy with the restraint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. It's a good movie. Check it out. Let me look at what's up next on the docket. I think we're recording this a little bit out of order in terms of releases. Let me pull up our calendar because I think before this would have been There Will Be Blood. Yep. So you've already heard that. And next up, we're going to be talking about Parasite. I mentioned Mickey 17 earlier, directed by Bong Joon Ho. We'll look at his 2019 Best Picture winner, Parasite. So,
Mm.
yeah, we'll see you next time. Do 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 do